So we're live now. Thank you. So it basically brings us to the last session of today, of the 2 day basic massive crypto express that we are trying to do here with Incrypted. And it's been actually so much knowledge sharing in the past few hours, 5, 6 hours. I know most of the people have been drenched with so much to take in and so much to consume. But this is also made available for the video format and digital media for later dissemination. And Karthik Bupathi, he's been an early adopter of blockchain way back. Started off with mining, same as myself, and now today is leading Arcanum Capital, focusing on digital assets, specifically in the seed stage segment. There's been so much that you might have learned through the journey with BNY Mellon, and now to running your own capital fund. There's so much learnings that you saw on identifying projects, analyzing founders, as Miko said in the last talk as well, founders in the team and what they set out to build, and their intentions behind it. They're much more to be seen. And at the seed level, you got to basically transpire into the team and see how it's going to go and visualize all of that. So, Karthik, thank you so much for being available and taking time out for our community and for everyone who's looking into blockchain projects, and know better than people that have burned their hands in few, made riches from a few, can be able to tell the story. So, Karthik, over to you. I'm going to be in the backstage. Call me whenever you need me. It's going to be over to you. How did you get into it? What's your journey, and how do you see seed stage capital working out for venture capital in terms of tokenized segments, in terms of equity? If you're looking into that as well at the seed round, or if you're only looking at digital assets per se. So we're going to learn a lot from you. So I'm going to leave the stage to you, and all the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. And yep, I'll just take over. First, I want to say thank you for having me. Pretty excited to have this talk today. I think, just to kind of take it back and just start from the beginning, the topic for this discussion is around seed stage blockchain venture capital, but primarily kind of a background between like our fund, Arcanum Capital, is we're primarily focused on seed stage investment within India. We're very bullish on India. We think the story for India as an asset class, when we talk about crypto assets, investments, is only just beginning. And that's why, the topic of this call is primarily seed stage investment, but more importantly, with the focus on what I would call the Indian Renaissance, India as the next blockchain frontier. So yeah, I think some high level between like who we are, like who I am. I'm founding partner at Arcanum Capital, where we're pretty broadly focused. Our fund just was formed last year, but a lot of our team, and myself included, have been in the blockchain space since around 2012, 2013. Back when it was only Bitcoin. Then we saw altcoins and with Ethereum. We've seen all this building kind of happen. Kind of the premise of our fund and our focus, why it's specifically on India, is that we saw that the space was only going to get bigger, and we're definitely seeing that this year. We have some slides on kind of the growth of India's blockchain ecosystem. But yeah, I think from a high level, this discussion is more simple. I don't want to kind of talk too much data around here. I just wanted to give an idea for those that don't understand and have maybe pushed India aside as a potential frontier for investment. But this kind of pitch is or talk more so is to discuss and kind of present some ideas on why people should be focused on India going forward, and specifically from an investment standpoint. So yeah, I think India in the 2020s will be like China in the 2010s. Few people really understand the full implications. It's pretty slightly vague if you would kind of see it at first glance. If you see the person that said this, Balaji Srinivasan, for those of you within the blockchain space, I'm sure you guys understand this is a familiar name. Those who have been following the COVID background or the history will understand this guy has been pretty vocal on COVID being a big thing, and unfortunately India is going through a tough time. So really hope to see them get out of it. But let's just kind of dig into this quote a little. I think this is basically a discussion or a quote that kind of foreshadows what I definitely agree when it's saying, like, if you see the past decade of where China went through so much development, now they are almost one-to-one competition with America right now when it comes to development, unicorns, the amount of GDP they're producing, and just really their kind of reach into the global economy. India, I believe, has that potential. They're the second biggest population in the world. Huge developer pool that we'll go into in the next few slides. But I think this is what I felt would be a great quote to kind of talk about and really foreshadow what we're going to talk about in this presentation. So what's the technology landscape today within India? From a high level, they've already have 32 unicorns, right? So they're already in the top 5 of unicorn generation. Number 1 is America, second is China, third is, I believe, UK, and then the 5th is India right now, and I only see that growing. Some of the reasons why they have so many unicorns, it's pretty obvious in a sense. Like, you think about the internet users, right? Most of the unicorns that are coming out today, even in Silicon Valley, et cetera, are mostly internet-based startups, SaaS, what have you. And it makes sense because the future is around technology. So yeah, internet users, almost 40 to 50% of India's population today uses the internet. India has the cheapest internet per gigabyte in the world, right? More like, and I mean, I believe 2 years ago they had Geo roll out and everyone had free internet for a decent amount of time, and that onboarded a vast majority of India. And this is not just slow internet. This is 5G, LTE. Everyone has it at the tip of their phone. And this is empowering because that enables what we believe and what I personally believe will be kind of this renaissance and kind of industrialization, technologization of India going forward. Out of 32 unicorns, there's another 3 that aren't in the traditional unicorn set, but 3 blockchain unicorns that were actually created in the past few months. Obviously, we are in a great time within the crypto space, and there are a lot of people. There are some that are mentioned right now, but like within this number, I did definitely look at Matic, which I'm sure all of you guys have heard about, who are really paving the way for success for the broader Indian blockchain ecosystem. So also, the last thing on this slide I would talk about is the mobile connections, right? Like 1.1 billion people. This is basically the majority of India's population has a phone. And you can expect to see, just like on above, where I talk about how there's 625 million users that use the internet, you could probably expect to see a kind of convergence of these internet users eventually going to all these people that have mobile connections or a mobile phone. So what makes India compelling, right? Why India, right? And what makes it is very simple, right? Is first of all, big tech has been building out hubs within India for a very long time. We're talking 2007, 2008, Facebook, Google, Apple, even big consulting firms, Deloitte, EY, they're all in India, right? We're talking Bangalore, Hyderabad. I believe there's some in Pune as well, Delhi. They all have their hubs. Even Amazon did HQ2, right? And the biggest hub outside of America for Amazon is within in Hyderabad. So why is that, right? Why is that? It's just because they have one of the largest developer pools in the world. They're an English first society, right? You can go there. English is almost basically mother tongue at that point. It's not mother tongue, but it's basically the first language for a lot of people now. Fourth, as I said earlier, 4th highest amount of unicorns. Rapid urbanization. I think this is definitely a kind of feedback loop or ripple effect from all of the tech hubs coming in there. And also, I think more recently, especially with how the growing youth within India, we're starting to see an entrepreneurial effect kind of play out. There's a lot of unicorns, as I said, 32 unicorns. This is starting to create a ripple or feedback loop at the college level, where kids are now starting to take a little bit of risk and start exploring entrepreneurial endeavors. And I think another thing that people don't kind of consider is historically there used to be a lot of brain drain, pre-Trump, right? But after Trump came in and he reduced H-1B, a lot of Indians that would have otherwise gone out to kind of big tech in America, they all stayed within India for at least 4 years now. And this kind of created what I would call a catalyst for what we're seeing play out. And a lot of Indians now are they see a lot of opportunity, and I don't see them actually really moving out. There's a lot of opportunity here. And with technology, you don't have to worry about getting a lower pay. Your market is global with technology. And I think that's what makes this story so much more compelling. So India plus blockchain, right? I've now spent time talking about macro, what makes India so compelling from kind of a TAM perspective, right? The market, addressable market, and just the overall technology landscape. What about India and blockchain though, right? I think this is a story that is still developing, right? It's only recently started to come up. But I think, as I said earlier, the combinative demographics like youth, growing internet users, the majority of the developers are younger people, right? So they are kind of primed to basically capture this, what I believe, significant mindshare within the Indian blockchain community, especially because most of the demographics of people that are developers or building projects within the blockchain ecosystem today globally are mostly young people. We're talking sub 35 years old. And this is exactly a demographic that is growing and developing in India itself. Some other statistics, or kind of details of why investors should be looking at India more specifically is, young users growing up mobile internet native, strong developer pool, as I said earlier, entrepreneurship risk taking. What we're seeing is that, and this happened in Silicon Valley as well, right, is once you get a bunch of successful startups, right, and what happens from the startups, you get very rich employees, right, who have gone out, maybe they do their own thing, or they become angel investors, right, and it creates this positive feedback loop for them to funnel their capital back into other companies or other founders that they might have relationships with, and it creates this very powerful feedback loop plus network effect, which we see in Silicon Valley today, but it's starting to expand to other kind of countries. We see this in China, and we're starting to see that in India. When it comes to blockchain specific, we've seen kind of trailblazers, Matic, great success story. We're talking $4.5 billion in market cap. I think it might be 5 right now. Instadap, WazirX, from brokerage perspective, and even persistence more recently. So why now, right? Like why go into India now, right? Is even though the story might make sense and there is a lot of potential, if the capital doesn't go in, it usually, the way it works is capital chases other capital. Someone has to take the first step. That's just how it is usually in life. And we are starting to see that. We've seen some various headlines that we've seen over the past year, even before the hype of, top institutions, top investors, the best of the best have come here. We're talking A16Z, we're talking Sequoia, talking traditional VCs, we're talking crypto VCs. They've all started to come here, and it's not like hidden in plain sight. It's pretty obvious, and they're going out there and saying that this is a future that we want, and we want to expose ourselves to India. So I think now the time is better than ever for investors to come in, kind of start navigating the India pipeline, which is not that easy, but it does take time. But eventually we could see that become a lot more accessible. So let's look at kind of a snapshot of India's blockchain kind of revolution, if you want to call it that. We have a variety of different projects here. These are stuff that have been announced, and honestly, I have to go and update this. There's so many coming every day, but these are some of the ones that I'm sure a lot of people here have probably heard about. These are projects that have been in the pipeline for years. We're talking exchanges, we're talking tooling, scaling, everything. And it's not less. It's definitely a lot, and I would say that this is going to grow, and it's probably going to double or triple within the next year, especially based on the conversations we're having. So market capitalization of Indian-based blockchain projects, 2017, 2021. I've been tracking the Indian space for a long time now, and the first kind of projects that existed were not really projects, they were more brokerages in 2017, 2016, your Uno coins, your CoinX. And this is kind of indicative of any early kind of blockchainization of any country. They don't start with projects first. They start with exchanges and brokerages, because that's the easiest way to bring their user base or their demographic or their people with access to cryptocurrencies. Usually starts with speculation before it gets to building. And we could see now that we are definitely seeing this exponential growth. We're already at 6 billion in current market cap of just projects. I'm not even talking brokerages today. And this is exactly what we need to kickstart or a catalyst that we need to kickstart growth, excitement, motivation for other entrepreneurs to follow in your Maddox and your persistence, your Instadepth kind of road. And this is we're at that kind of point, and I think in the next year this is going to get even more exciting, and I'm excited to see this data in a year for sure. So we talked about the investment side, we talked about the macro. What about DeFi, right? I think this is, I believe, the most kind of exciting thing for India, and the reason why is, and really the premise of DeFi is like providing access to financial services or tools that people around the world otherwise would not have gotten access to. And the reason why I say around the world is because if you think about America, you talk about UK or maybe even Europe, right? A lot of the people here might not be so attuned to DeFi because they already have access to so many different financial services. But what makes blockchain so interesting and what makes DeFi so interesting is that they provide services that would otherwise only be accessible to developed countries, or some might not even be accessible to developed countries. They provide that to everyone, right? All you need is a wallet, all you need is a phone, internet connection, get access to it. I think that's super compelling for India because there is a story behind banking the unbanked, right? A lot of people are not unbanked. There has been a lot of initiatives recently around bringing them on board, with the India stack, right? With Aadhaar card, documentation and making it as seamless as possible for people to come on board. But I think there is a potential. I think Balaji Srinivasan talks about this as well, is integrating DeFi and kind of the digital currencies into the Indian stack. And what is already starting to become a digital native kind of population or demographic, it just makes sense from a key and lock perspective to just put DeFi in because it goes hand in hand. They're not really reinventing the wheel. It's just a perfect extension for them. And another thing around that is also like, even apart from like just the service itself, I think fiscal and monetary uncertainty around the currency itself can provide some avenue for DeFi users as well, right? Because a lot of the people within DeFi use US dollar. That could provide some form of, let's say, diversification for the average Indian users, as coupled with gold, which is a very common theme for investment within India. Last thing on this is, MSMEs, we're talking small businesses. Only the biggest corporations with the best history really get access to financing within India. I think probably a multi-billion-dollar opportunity for the project that nails this is finding a way to bridge this huge unmet financing gap. Right now it's 5.2 billion, it's growing every year, and merging that with the liquidity that is available within DeFi, right? I think this is a huge opportunity. A lot of the lending rates or the lending costs, or the cost of capital within India is still very high. And the cost of capital within DeFi is actually, when you compare it, relatively low, especially when you compare it to India. I think there's a huge opportunity, especially when you think about the compliance, regulation. If you can solve the transparency side and the regulation intricacies, this would probably be a huge success, and would not only be a success from a monetary perspective, but actually provide a lot of value and allow this kind of smaller business arm within India to grow substantially, and also further adoption of the DeFi space. So I think it works hand in hand. I think this is going to start to play out within the next 2 years. There are some projects like Comdex that are focusing on this, but I think this is still a very nascent field with a lot of potential, especially from an investment standpoint. So what are some of the challenges? Of course, I've only told the good parts, the rosy scenarios, the best things that can happen. But of course, with proper reward, I think there's also risk to it, right? And I think this is also some of the reasons why a lot of firms or a lot of people have not kind of pushed India under the covers or have not really went fully into it, is that there is definitely unclear guidance around crypto-based banking, right? I think the biggest risk for any investor going into this space is definitely investing in brokerages. There are some big funds or big brokerages like WazirX, CoinDCX that have got pretty reputable funding, but still, I think there has been pretty decent unclarity. 1 month they'll say that there's a bill passing within the Congress of India, or the lawmakers, or one day they'll say that there will be this politician that'll come online and say kind of negative things. So it's just a gray area, and it's very shaky from that front. I think this is a risk that obviously the bet is that this is going to clear out and competition will basically force India to kind of be kind of accommodative to crypto-based banking. But I think this is very similar to China as well. Even now there's still a gray area around crypto. They allow it to kind of prosper, but there is no kind of set in stone thing saying that you're allowed to do this the right way. So it's really it's a game of, not even say a game, but there's a lot of regulatory arbitrage that's happening. A lot of the founders within India, they do not go the Indian route. They do not base in India. They go through Singapore and other entities because there is uncertainty. So there are different ways around this, but the ideal scenario is kind of this playing out and clearing out once there is guidance. Another thing is around capital controls, right? Is Indian citizens are not really allowed to take more than 250K. This is constantly changing. That is definitely a risk. Again, very similar to China around kind of capital controls. This could be kind of a risk that plays out for Indian citizens at the consumer level. But I think that we will get clarity on this moving forward, especially all we would need is like crypto regulation to play out. And I think the government is looking into it, especially because central bank RBI has basically mentioned that they are looking to the digital rupee, what have you. So just kind of getting to the end of the talk now. The key themes that I would say is that Indian blockchain is going to be, I believe, one of the best growth bets of this decade, specifically because India as a market is growing and blockchain as a market itself is growing and seeing exponential returns or growth. I think the most successful ecosystems, layer ones, you're talking Solana, Tendermint, Polkadot, if they are to have true success and be a big player on this world, I think they're going to have significant presence. And our firm has had discussions with some of these foundations already. So yeah, I think that's it. Thank you, everyone. I hope, you guys now have a better idea of where India stands from investment macro standpoint. And I think from an investor lens, definitely not a place to ignore. And you could start to see interesting stuff come out of this space. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Karthik. It was really insightful. You can actually, we'll share all the contact details and other things that can be made available to everyone that attended today, and also the digital media that goes out for dissemination. But thank you so much. It was very clear and concise on how you see the perspective, and a lot of facts, a lot of real facts. Obviously, when you showed that 2017 graph at 122 million, luckily, like every one of us was at that point in time. Obviously, software way before the Unicorn times, and like you rightly said, there's so much infrastructural work going on in India, like specifically like. So we guys for the last 2 years have been building HT wallets wrapped around an Ethereum-based ID. And it was really challenging for us to have a multi-chain asset class, multi-chain ID, basically, where you can port on different assets. When you're an ERC, then you are an ERC. When you're on BSC, you're on BSC. But then ultimately create a native application. So really a lot of good things to talk about. There's a lot of Web3 work which our team did with meta transactions and gasless transactions way before my dear friend Aniket, built by Economy. But it's that you always wait for the right time to work things out. And also like the whole intention of what you said about the regulation in deficit, what lies in supply. There's demand in India for a lower cost of capital based lending system, and there's enough supply around the world on that cost of capital. The only cross-border transactional issue in terms of transfer pricing, in terms of DTAA and other things that India's facing, a lot of regulatory challenges. We have an own NBFC and a lending company. We have something known as moneylogi.com, and we lend from our own books. We are a registered NBFC for the last 20 years. We took over basically, but that NBFC is registered. So there's a lot of what you just said makes a lot of sense. Payday loans or early discounted loans for millennials in working and employments and stuff. It's a $90 billion market. It's just insane. What the opportunity in India lies, what we can facilitate from crypto. from day one. Even Unicast, Gaurav is a dear friend, Kumar Gaurav is a dear friend. They're trying to do whatever they want to do, but there's still a lot of sense of centralization, and even in the things that we are trying to do. So us at Safel, previously known as Inblocks, you must have heard of Inblocks here and there,
Yeah,
while
I have.
assessing things. So I'm the founder and CEO of that, and then we basically made Safel because of some issues from Santa Clara, a company in Santa Clara known as Infoblocks. So we said we were not going to fight all the way and like the whole metaverse, cryptoverse thing, but we didn't,
Sure.
and we came up with something better. So I'm happy, and I'm happy how's your outlook towards the Indian ecosystem. There's so much going on. We're always looking forward to support everything that happens in the Indian ecosystem. Education has been a mess. We're trying to sort that out too. Uh,
Yeah.
so there's a lot going on. A couple of questions. When you look at a seed capital, like what apart from the concept, or how do you assess something which has to be grabbed at the right point in time, because you're taking bets at a very early stage,
Yeah.
and how do you take that, and plus do you take how do you get involved in projects? Are they completely tokenized projects? Because I saw you mentioning CoinX and stuff. So it's easy had a bit of a breakout in the last a couple of weeks with the hack and everything. Like how do you see, and do you take tokens? Do you take equity? And like how do you go about with your project? And I see your partners here as well. So if he
Yeah.
wants to come on the stage, I'm gonna just invite him on the stage so you both can. If he's
Sure.
yeah, I'm just trying to invite him on the stage. Yeah, I've just invited him on the stage. Probably if he's available, he's going to join. But how do you look at these
Sure.
things while investing and looking at, and being on you're scouting for projects, right? And so how do
Yeah.
we?
Yeah. So great question. I would say like the thing about the Indian kind of ecosystem is it is so nascent, right? There is no like, if you go to like across the pond, right? You go to the West, you go to Europe, right? You see that it's a lot more maturity. So a lot of the deals that are happening, that when you do find them, are actually past the idea phase, because there is this kind of broader understanding within the space of how to get to
To
a
what?
venture capital round.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because then that's the nature of it being a more mature. They're just more mature in kind of their life cycle. But within India, because it is so nascent and so new, a lot of, and this is actually our focus as well, is that in order to set up the founders for the greatest success, and what the deals that we like personally is, we like to be the first check-in. And the ones that come to us, and we understand the nature, is that most of these entrepreneurs, they're just starting to dip their feet into blockchain, right? Like they're already just got exposed to it maybe in the past year, and they're still learning, right? Which is fine, you can learn. A lot of them are at the idea phase. Yeah. So we personally, they come to us, and because we have so much of that exposure, we're not just like Ethereum only people. We believe the world is multi-chain, and we have this kind of understanding of what chain we believe. Again, everything is opinion based, but we believe this will happen.
Yeah, there is a bias.
Exactly. Everyone has to have some thesis, right? And when they come to us, they come with us and they say, hey, look, we want to do this. How can we do it the right way, right? And a lot of what we do is we believe that we like to go at the first check-in. We like to consider ourselves some form of incubator, right? Like we talk to them, we advise them in a way, and we help them with kind of what network they should reach out to, what they should reach, like what we believe is the best assigned consideration for their, like what blockchain they should use, because a lot of them don't know, right? A lot of them might go to Ethereum, or they might go to, like back in the day, to say EOS, which was like a hype thing, right? So we exactly, everyone knows that.
Hi, Karthik, it's coming by. I'm telling you that. It's coming back.
No.
Anytime soon. Anytime soon.
Exactly, right? So, I mean, on that kind of note, like for us, we're pretty open to, like right now the market is demanding tokens, right? And I guess the founders like that as well. Not gonna lie and say that the valuations are definitely super high, and I would say bear market gives the best valuations. But what we're seeing today is that like most of these people that are coming to us are coming at the idea phase. We walk them through the whole process, getting to eventually the MVP, and getting them ready for the next round, right? So we help them kind of prepare themselves with the deck, the presentation. Everyone has certain needs, especially when we're talking to like the bigger funds. They have a certain approach, and a lot of them don't like to go to idea phase, especially when you're talking about India. To them, I think our role is really de-risking it, right, at the idea phase and making it ready for bigger capital raise rounds. And we enjoy that as well because we build a much more fonder relationship with the founders. We set them up for some success, and B, we can help. I think we're also successful in bringing other technologies, which we think have minimal penetration in India, but we believe should have higher penetration. We can leverage this kind of connection to set up founders with the right place, with the right blockchains, the right technology stack, and help exposure increase within India. So I think it's
like with the money, with the right. It's we always talk about the color of money in the seed stages. The color of money counts. Who's putting in money? Who's coming in? Will there be a proactive role and advisory and consulting and forming out the avenues that someone has to pursue? Because when you're crafting out ways and roadmaps for like a couple of years down the line, it's imperative that someone having that kind of vision and mindset, who have given and laid down years in establishing what it means to be in blockchain. It's not always all sunshine and rainbows. We've seen all times, and this is possibly for you and me the third cycle. So everything that goes on with it, I always refrain from doing tokens in the last 4 years. I actually launched something known as flip coins back in 2014 in a project called Go For Anything, if you Google it and YouTube it. And at that point of time, none of things existed like Ethereum. Now everything I've made is on Ethereum, and now it's super easy for me to transport it to Binance Chain or any other EVM compatible optimism rollups or any other thing that I want to go in. I think you hit the nail on the head. Tushar from Persistence, like super dear friend, very close friend of mine. One of the most professional guys that I have seen, in this space. Really adore him for that. And on the other side, Matic has been super cozy and thing as an ecosystem. Have been there with Matic for 2018 May onwards. Super nice. We actually were the first ones to do the first mainnet masterclass. And getting the education and information across. And now that it's the same is needed for Polkadot, the same is needed for Solana, same is needed for Tezos. Obviously, like everyone's on about. Asking us to develop education material and everything for that. And I think, Karthik, we can have so many things that India needs to kind of have as artillery in the web, in the whole weaponry system to make these bombs, right? Which ultimately become unicorns. So I'm really happy, and I'm really glad to see your support coming